Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you again for being here on a Saturday. So we are recording this. And it looks like we might still have some people joining us, but we'll go ahead and get started. All right, so you're here today to learn about Bluebonnet Home Scholars Collaborative. We are offering classes in the Christian liberal arts tradition, and we have been actually collaborating since 2016. Oh, I should turn on my video so you can see. Sorry, web troubles here. All right, so we actually began in July 2016 as a book group with a few homeschool moms we were all reading the Charlotte Mason books, and we decided to read them together. And so we started getting together at a park and discussing her books once a month. And after doing that for 2 or 3 years, we decided, hey, we want to have more. We want to work together to offer classes. So that was the beginning of Bluebonnet. So Bluebonnet is not a school in that we supplement what homeschool parents are doing. We don't offer everything needed for high school graduation, for example. We don't offer transcripts or letter grades. But we are not a co-op. We have professional teachers that are vetted, that go through background checks, reference checks, who are experienced and competent educators in their field. We'll introduce you to some of them or tell you about them later on in the webinar, and we will have time to answer questions as well. So Bluebonnet Home Scholars Collaborative is a nonprofit, which means that we are run by a board of directors, and our prices are very competitive and really underpriced for the quality of instructors that we have. And all of the board members and administrative team are volunteer in their capacity. Let me introduce you to our team. So Natasha Estes was actually one of the very first members of our book group back in 2016. She was probably the first person that replied to my email on the SECHE loop and said she wanted to come to the book group. She is wonderful. She's our handicraft instructor. She comes up with the most amazing crafts. We'll get to see some of her stuff in a little bit. And she also is on the board of directors as our treasurer, and does a lot of administrative help. She's always on site helping. We couldn't have done this without her. She's wonderful. We also have Abigail Abatoy, who is our wonderful Form 1 Kaleidoscope instructor. She's our lead Form 1 instructor. And she is also the Director of Community Development and on the board as the Vice Chair of the board. All right. Okay, so here I am. I'm Jen Hardenberg, and I am the founder. We'll get to Sean in a second. I am the founder and executive director, and I teach the writing classes at Bluebonnet as well for 4th grade through 12th grade. Sean Pope is our campus coordinator this year. He's been wonderful at helping us get our outdoor classes up and running every day. He's fantastic. He coordinates the parent volunteers, scheduling, and keeps everything moving smoothly on campus. He couldn't be here with us today, but Natasha and Abby are here if you have questions for them later on. So I mentioned that we started as a book group meeting at the park talking about Charlotte Mason. If you're not familiar with her, she was a British educator in the late 1800s, early 1900s. And people say she was way ahead of her time. She was on it. She loved to research and learn about education and what was the best thing for students. She was a teacher, and then she became a teacher trainer. Some say she was the founder of homeschooling because she actually created guides for parents to do homeschooling and for parents to form small cottage schools all around Britain. So we really rely on her because she understood children. She understood that they are born persons. They're not blank slates. They are not empty buckets that you pour information into. They're full humans, which means they're made in the image of God. Charlotte Mason was a devout Christian, and that influenced her educational philosophy deeply. She also understood how education works, especially for the younger ages in elementary school. She's just so wise. She spent time with children and she got them. And she understood that education is achieved through atmosphere, habit, and living ideas. So providing children with an atmosphere that's full of beauty, that's full of love, that's full of wonder, and discipline and order, keeping the children in a place where things aren't dumbed down for them. They're not given what she called twaddle. She hated twaddle. She hated curriculum that was written just for children, that was dumbed down and wasn't beautiful. So she wanted them to have living ideas. She wanted them to read beautiful books, to look at beautiful art, to hear beautiful music. Because children are born persons, they don't need adults to mediate the Holy Spirit for them. They don't need adults to mediate beauty for them. So Charlotte Mason said, give them direct access. Don't talk too much. They'll get it. They're born persons. They're made in the image of God. And habit formation was deeply important to her as well. She understood that once you have good habits, life moves along. She compared it to train tracks. Once you lay down the foundation of habits, your train will go smoothly along the tracks. And so we emphasize all of those aspects of her philosophy in Bluebonnet. And the other thing that we take from her is the idea of a generous feast. So she said, the metaphor isn't perfect, and she said the metaphor isn't perfect, but children are more like plants in that they need sustenance. She didn't reject, or she didn't like the whole kindergarten movement that was starting then. Again, because sometimes it was dumbed down for them or too overwhelming. But the similarity is that children need sustenance. They need food. And even just comparing to our bodies, right? If we have only one type of food all the time, we don't have a balanced diet. So she said children need a generous, widely various intellectual diet to nourish their minds and their spirits. So at Bluebonnet, we have a huge variety of classes, and we have a lot of subjects that she especially recommended. We'll get to that in a little bit. All right, so we're not Charlotte Mason purists, though. We draw on the whole Christian liberal arts tradition. So we love people like Jacques Maritain, a Catholic philosopher in the 1900s, wrote about education, drew on the ideas of Aristotle and Plato. Again, habits and intellectual virtues were very important to him, and also respecting the child. Most of you have heard of Dorothy Sayers. She helped with her essay, Being Rediscovered, Lost Tools of Learning. She helped revive classical education movement in America in the homeschool community, and she's wonderful. And then, of course, C.S. Lewis had a lot to say about education as well. I love his book, Abolition of Man, where he talks about forming the sentiments, the habit of feeling, the habit of acting in a right way. So we take a broad approach in looking at our philosophy of education, drawing on the best minds from the Christian tradition. So in a nutshell, our philosophy of education is to invite wonder, to facilitate knowledge through the lively presentation of vital ideas, ideas that matter, ideas that draw the students in, that ignite their imaginations, that move their affections. To model and transmit disciplined habits of sentiment and volition, how they act, what they value, how they choose to behave, how they choose to live. And then thirdly, to inspire love and action that embraces the good, the true, and the beautiful. We were made to embrace God, and he is all that is good and true and beautiful. And his creation is a manifestation of his goodness, his truth, and his beauty. So we want to address the whole person at Bluebonnet. So I'll talk next about just a few of our unique features. We govern all our actions by our core values. They are tenacity, collaboration, and freedom. Tenacity, meaning that we don't give up, we work hard, and we actually have all of our students and parents sign a code of conduct when they enroll that said, the students specifically initial this code, that they will work hard and not give up, that they will ask for help if they need help, that they will treat other students with the dignity that they deserve. So we're tenacious about both learning and loving one another, and we are tenacious about collaborating. So the collaboration, we teach children how to collaborate. We model that collaboration as educators. So as a professional team of educators, we collaborate. We have regular meetings throughout the year to work on our professional development, to continue learning and modeling that learning for our kids. And then, of course, we collaborate with parents, because we're not a school, we're not a co-op, but we are a collaborative. And we value parents as the primary educators. So we always want to keep those lines of communication open. And then the freedom. At Bluebonnet, well, this ties into our next, our unique commitments. This is just how we do business. So we're an ecumenical Christian community, which means that everyone, when they enroll, and everyone who works for us agrees and affirms the Nicene Creed. It's an ancient Christian creed. It's before any of the schisms. It's from the Council of Nicaea in the 300s. And it just specifies the things we all agree on. So Roman Catholic, Protestant, Eastern Orthodox families and staff are all warmly welcome at Bluebonnet because the differences between our traditions matter a lot. They're important, but what unites us is more important. So the belief in the Trinity, the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, the belief in the two natures of Christ, that he's fully man and fully God, that he was incarnate and by the Virgin Mary, was crucified, died, and raised for us. That's all in the Nicene Creed. So we chose that because it's ancient and shared within all the Christian traditions. Parent involvement, like I said, we collaborate with parents. This is a program, this is a hybrid program for homeschool families. So we provide a lot of support and various levels of support. If you're a homeschool family, you've been homeschooling for a long time, you just want to do one class a la carte, you're welcome. If you are maybe transitioning from another school setting, we have a full comprehensive program and a lot of support. And then professionalism. So again, we want to not only hire professional teachers who are experienced and excellent in their field, but we also want to interact with parents in a professional manner by having clear communication tools and having excellent service. So that, back to our core values, the freedom is that we respect the freedom of families to come from different Christian traditions. We respect the freedom of individuals to be their own unique selves. We celebrate differences at Bluebonnet. Students who are untraditional in their learning approaches or their learning needs are welcome. We're not experts on all learning challenges, but we are partners with parents and we know that parents know what the students need. So we respect the freedom of each individual to be the person that Christ created them to be and to honor the dignity in them. Okay, so let's talk about some of our specific offerings. Form 1, we have, this is from Charlotte Mason, our form structure, and it's a little bit strange coming from the traditional American way of thinking by grades. So we do somewhat think by grades, but Form 1 is grades kindergarten through 3rd, and we have our flagship Kaleidoscope class, which offers that generous feast of living ideas that Charlotte Mason talked about. We'll get into the details of that. New this year, we're adding a block class in the afternoons on Tuesdays that is a block with Latin, medieval history, and art. This is going to be a really fun class, and we'll talk about that more too. Finally, we have Spanish. So we have, at Bluebonnet, we have modern language and classical language all the way through kindergarten through 12th grade. We also have an English language arts program, which is research-based, and that's my passion, that's my interest from my graduate work in education and from my own personal interest is English language arts. So I like to take what Charlotte Mason modeled and how she always was into the latest research. And so even though Charlotte Mason lived 100 years ago, there's been more discoveries, more research, more knowledge that has come to light since then. So we apply the best of the contemporary research on education. We look for what are the best practices for phonics, what are the best practices for penmanship, and we apply those in our classes. And then for students who are in 2nd grade through 6th grade, we also have a children's choir. So let's talk more about Kaleidoscope. This class, again, is taught by Mrs. Abatoy, who is on our board and one of our founders. She's so gentle and wonderful with the kids. I love to see her working with them. So this is a 2.5-hour block on Tuesday mornings, and it includes singing hymns. I love to hear them start their hymn at the beginning of class every week. And Mrs. Abatoy, I didn't give background on her. She also has a degree in education and music education, and has taught at other locations before, and she has a beautiful voice. So she sings for us in our assemblies, which we'll talk more about in a little bit, but I love to hear her singing with the kids every week. So they do hymns, folk songs. Sometimes she incorporates some solfa as well, which was one of Charlotte Mason's recommendations for that generous feast of ideas and habits. They do scripture recitation. They work on a passage for a few weeks at a time and rotate those passages a few times through the year. They have a variety of handicrafts. I'm always amazed to see the different projects that they're working on. They also do artist study and composer study, and play a lot of math games to work on mastering those basic math facts in a really fun way. So again, looking at the research, kids actually learn more through play. So if you're concerned about academics, the best way to get to the end is to play in a lot of situations, especially in the young grades. So mastering math facts through drill, boring. But mastering math facts through games with your friends, awesome. Because the kids are engaged, they retain it. And then nature study. So all of our levels from kindergarten through 12th include science and math. But on our younger levels, it's a more supplementary or foundational math and science. So nature study is when we do the foundation of science, which is learning to observe and notice things. So let's look at some specifics. So for the hymn and folk song, we have a different hymn every month, and Mrs. Abitoy works really hard to find hymns that fit our ecumenical community and are diverse. So we have a wonderful range from different time periods of hymns that honor our commitment to the Trinity, that come from different decades in the church's history, and it's just really wonderful to hear her sing those, and then we all learn them together. So we rotate every month through the hymns. So this is, Abby, is this a quote from Charlotte Mason? Or maybe, did I have a?
Yes, it's from Charlotte Mason.
All right, so the learning of Bible passages should begin while the children are quite young, 6 or 7. It is a delightful thing to have the memory stored with beautiful, comforting, and inspiring passages. And we cannot tell when and how this manner of seed may spring up, grow, and bear fruit. So again, the Bible, Abby, can you say again how often you switch the Bible passages?
Yeah, we work on one scripture passage for 8 weeks. So a long passage, and we break it up. So a couple verses each week that we focus on.
Yeah, and you can tell Mrs. Abitoy is also a mother of 3, so she has her oldest in the kaleidoscope level. So she brings not only her education background, but her mother wisdom as well to her teaching. So yes, so we've worked on Psalms, and a lot of this recitation we work on together through our assembly as a whole community, which happens at lunch, and again, we'll talk more about that later. So we actually look at these Bible recitation passages as a community-wide project. So we've done Psalms, and right now we're doing the first part of the Gospel of John, which I love that part. Okay, so for the math games, we draw on the Right Start math program, which is really fun. I use that with my children. Again, research-based about learning through games. We're looking at pattern recognition, looking at basic math facts, not doing worksheets is the primary way to learn, but really hands-on learning. So we have a whole game. Mrs. Abitoy has a whole math game pack that she uses. I love to see them do artist study. Isn't this amazing? So they do a different artist. Is it 4 to 8 artists per year, Abby?
It's less than that. It's like 3 or 4 artists. 3 or 4
artists, and then several artworks from each artist. So they really get to know each artist. They kind of camp out with an artist for what is that, a couple months, month or 2? And then they look at different works by them every couple weeks. So the first week they'll look at it, work on their skills of noticing. Remember, habit formation is foundational to all of learning, to all of life, to character. So there are intellectual habits as well as moral habits. And a foundational intellectual habit for all future study is noticing, as attention, is observation. And then, so students are able to look silently, and they get into the habit of studying a piece carefully, noticing details, and being able to articulate what they see to talk about it as a class. And then on the second week that they study the print, and we do provide full prints to every child. Every child gets a whole binder of art prints by the end of each year. So on the second week of studying an art print, they do a response where they try to draw it. Sometimes they draw it from memory. So study, remember, the retention habit, another foundational intellectual habit. Sometimes they do it by memory, and sometimes they do it by looking and doing their drawing. So this is from our kinder through 3rd grade class. Aren't these fantastic? I just I love those so much. And then, as I mentioned, the handicrafts. So here are some things they've done in the last year and a half. We've done origami. There was some origami. I don't remember how many slides we have on this. So we have weaving and some initial stitching for sewing. So handicrafts train the hand and eye. And this goes back to one of our core values as well, which is tenacity or perseverance. So sometimes it's really hard, you know, kids are working on those fine motor skills at this age. And so handicrafts are not just something fun to do, they're not just playing, they're actually developing fine motor skills. And what's even more important, the character habit of perseverance. They're learning to do hard things and not give up, as they agreed in their code of conduct. And they're creating beautiful things. And often handicrafts are useful as well, so it's beautiful and useful. Nature study, like I said, this is our foundation for science. And we have a beautiful 7-acre campus at the church where we're located that has all kinds of wonderful space to explore outdoors. And our kaleidoscope class really gets into it. As you can see, we have some boys especially who love the little creatures. But not only do they go out and notice, but they learn to record it, which is what all scientists do, right? So you observe and you learn to make careful notes. So at this level, what they're doing is learning to record the date, the name of the item that they found, and to draw it as best they can. And you can see, I mean, this looks pretty snail-like in this March 24th Nature Journal. I love that. And then we got visited by a possum. So we have on January 19th, there was actually a possum in the tree, and one of our children drew a possum in the tree. It was great. All right, so that was our kaleidoscope class. And then we're adding this new class, which is the combination of Latin, medieval history, and art. And I'm still a little bit weirded out that I can't see my video and know what you're seeing, but we have some really fun curriculum lined up for that. So we're gonna do the Song School Latin from Classical Academic Press, which is, again, kids learn best through music, through games, through play. They retain so much more that way. So the Song School Latin uses that. There are songs and games, and it's very interactive and fun and age appropriate. And we're also going to use art curriculum. I don't know if you can see this at all. This is Artistic Pursuits, and it goes chronologically. So they'll be looking at medieval artwork from Byzantine times forward, going through different kinds of art like mosaics, doing construction paper mosaics or other projects. So they look at actual photos of art from the time period, and then they respond with a project that is related or a response project to that art. And for the history, they'll also be reading Story of the World, Volume 2. This is a really fun curriculum that we use throughout elementary at Bluebonnet. So it's a kind of a unit study with the art and the history. Okay, we also, like I said, have modern languages and English language arts. So for English language arts, we use the Spell to Write and Read program by Wanda Sanseri. Again, research-based on best practices for phonics and reading formation. And then Cursive First, also research-based. The neuroscientists, or doctors, a neurologist, what's it called? No, is that right? It actually helps prevent or deal with tremors. It helps prevent reversals for dyslexic students. So we do Cursive First, and we use the Cursive First curriculum that goes with the Spell to Write and Read program. And the Spell to Write and Read program is what it sounds like. They learn their phonograms, all the letters and the combination of letters, all the sounds that they make, and then they learn to write words by decoding them from sound and writing them down through spelling. And through that process, they learn to read and write. I've used this program with my students and several other students, and it's fantastic. I learned spelling rules I didn't even know we had in English. It's a really comprehensive program. They also do poetry memorization, a key to language formation. And then in the Spanish class, it's dual language, so they do Spanish and English. We only hire native Spanish speakers who have classroom teaching experience, and you'll get to meet Mrs. Vega on our slides in a minute. And this is, again, very interactive, very hands-on, multi-sensory learning in the classroom to go with best practices based on contemporary research and just common sense. We know what our kids like and what engages them. All right, so here in a nutshell is our curriculum. If any of you would like the book list, we are happy to email it to you. We are always revising and evaluating our curriculum to make sure it's the best fit for our program and that aligns with our philosophy of education. Which brings me to our curriculum adoption and review process. So we rely on teacher expertise, parent and student feedback, research, and then that's an ongoing process of collaboration between all those key stakeholders to pick the best curriculum. So we make sure that it aligns with our philosophy of education. Does it harmonize with best practices and principles from both the classical liberal arts tradition and contemporary research? Does it invite wonder, knowledge, and love? Does it present vital ideas? Is it compatible with a Christian worldview and our ecumenical Christian community? Is it respectful of the differences in our community? We're a big tent. We're under the Trinity, under Christ, but we're a big tent inside of that. Is it suitable for use on homeschool days? We are a collaborative with parents, so it needs to be something that the parents can implement or help their children with at home by checking or having an answer key that students can use for upper level maths, for example. Does the curriculum honor the freedom of dignity of students? We don't want something that talks it down to them, that is twaddle, as Charlotte Mason would say. Does it help cultivate the virtuous habits and mastery that we're aiming for? And how does it contribute overall to what we're offering? Is it contributing to that generous feast? And is it cohesive with the other classes that we offer? And then specific classes have objectives that we also consider. So we evaluate whether it correlates with specific concepts or themes in the content scope, whether it facilitates the objectives of the course. This is going to be really important, for example, in high school maths and sciences. And does it meet, again, for those, especially those high school classes, does it meet or exceed college preparation levels of mastery and content coverage? So those are really important to us. So we try to find the best quality material and also find what's available and affordable for families. I want to introduce you to some of our teachers now. Ms. Phelps is a wonderful Latin teacher. She has been studying Latin since she was homeschooled in 4th grade. And she fell in love with Latin when she did the Minimus curriculum from Cambridge University Press. And that's the same curriculum we use starting in 4th grade as well. So over 11 years, she's been studying Latin. She's graduating this spring from HBU. She's in the Honors College. And she has had previous classroom experience before coming to Bluebonnet in different homeschool settings. She also has been a tutor at the HBU Academic Success Center for tutoring peer college students. And she's even presented as an undergraduate. She presented a paper at a conference in her field of classics for Latin. This is actually my son's favorite class, is Miss Phelps' Latin class. These children never sit still in upper elementary. So she's going to teach all of our Latin. She's going to teach the Latin for the Form 1 with the art and history. She said she loves art. She's done Story of the World curriculum before. And then she teaches all the way up through high school Latin, and she's fantastic. For Spanish, we have Mrs. Martha Vega. She is from Bogota, Colombia. She had her Bachelor of Science there. When she came here to Texas, she became certified as a bilingual teacher. She's taught in public schools for many years and has also worked with many private clients in private tutoring as well. And she's very passionate about it being hands-on, interactive. She brings in crafts, she brings in different art things, and she uses the dual language to talk to them both in Spanish and English to make sure they understand what she's saying in Spanish and that they're hearing and speaking the language as well. Let's talk about Form 2. So Form 2 is our upper elementary class grouping. And we've decided to add this name. So we have the Kaleidoscope class for Form 1. For Form 2 and up, we have what I'm calling the Panorama. So both of the names imply that there's this generous feast, right? There's so much to see. There's so much beauty to see. So our Panorama is our flagship program. It's what we started with, our Tuesday morning classes that are the Feast of Charlotte Mason ideas. So we'll go through the list of those classes. Unlike the Form 1 Kaleidoscope class, the Panorama is individual classes that you can take a la carte. And then in addition to the Panorama, we have core academics, languages, Latin and Spanish, continuing all the way up, and a bunch of enrichment classes. So, and I do want to make a distinction here that the Panorama classes tend to not have homework. And The core academic classes will sometimes have homework, but we try to keep homework to a minimum, just what's necessary. We don't want to overburden kids with academics. We don't want to tire them out. We want them to feel rested, and we want them to be enjoying their learning and finding delight and wonder. So while they're getting masteries, we try to find the right balance between homework and what's needed for mastery. For the panorama, there really hardly is ever any homework, although there are additional activities you can do at home to reinforce or to extend learning. But for the core academics, there will sometimes be homework. And that's true for the languages as well. Not really homework for enrichment. All right, so let's look at the specifics. For the panorama, and this is Form 2 panorama, it also continues the panorama up through Form 3 and 4, which is middle school and high school. So Charlotte Mason recommended that starting with 9 years old in 4th grade, students should read Plutarch and Shakespeare straight up, not dumbed down, actually read it. Now, the thing is, you do it together, and you do it out loud, and you do it slowly. And they really get it. We underestimate children so often. So what we do is we read one life from Plutarch's Lives and one play from Shakespeare each semester. And it's read aloud in class. And then students talk about it and narrate it together in class. Sometimes for the Shakespeare, they'll act out a scene. Even for the Plutarch, sometimes they'll reenact something that they read about that week. So it's a slow read and a deep read. So we're not trying to cram in tons of reading or tons of activities. We're just enjoying Plutarch and Shakespeare, and we're going at a speed that makes it accessible for even a 4th grader. Again, with the generous feast, we do artist and composer study. So students study 4 to 8 artists and 4 to 8 composers each year, and they do multiple works from each artist and multiple works from each composer. So they get a feel for that artist or composer's work. And as in the Kaleidoscope class, they have full color prints for the artwork that they study. They learn to observe it and to make notes and to draw it from memory. They learn to articulate what they see, to say what they see, and to talk about it. The same with the music. They learn to notice. They learn to listen carefully. They learn to articulate what they're hearing, to find patterns, when they get to know a composer, they'll start becoming more familiar with the aspects of music. For this level, Form 2 and up, they also sometimes, the teachers incorporating listening tests at the end of each semester. Again, we're not giving grades. This is for delight, but we do also want to encourage them to master the material, but not in a stressful way. So we have some informal quizzes with the listening recognition for music there. For nature journaling, as with Form 1, this is all about habits of observation and recording, so making notes. And at this level, and then moving on into middle school and high school, students are able to take that further. We have a wonderful nature journaling teacher who I'm going to tell you about in a second. And then we also do geography through living books and map work, and math club. This is like the Kaleidoscope math games, only we get a whole hour of it. And we not only do the games, but we also do mathematician biographies so that the students have those living ideas. Who's behind these things? What are the exciting moments, the dramatic moments in the history of math? What motivated people to study math? Because we don't just want students to be little calculators who can do algorithms, who can perform operations. We want them to have wonder and love of the subject. And then we also do handicrafts. Okay, so for the handicraft class, this is Form 2 and up, so all the way through high school. We have different levels. They have done some beautiful work with paper crafts. I am always amazed at what Mrs. Estes can do with paper. So they've done quilling, they've done kirigami, they've done origami. They made cards at Christmas time. And earlier they were weaving fabric. They made pet toys. They made dog and cat chew toys, really fun. And then now this semester they've been basket weaving, taking it to the next level. The kids love that. They even got to put beads in their baskets. They've also been working on crochet, and Mrs. Estes is really good at helping students find a project that's for their skill level. We have students who have been crocheting, who are pretty good at crocheting, and students who've never crocheted before at all. So we find different projects for the students. They've lately been working on kite making. This is currently in progress, right? Natasha, are you doing kite making right now? you there. Okay. The leather crafting. So we try to find crafts that appeal to both boys and girls and have a wide variety of different crafts to appeal to different types of students. Here are some of the things they've made. I love these art leather kits that they made. Because a lot of the kids are doing a lot of art classes, nature journaling, they need supplies that they can take out in the field for their nature journaling and take to their art classes. So Mrs. Estes helped them make these beautiful art tool kits with leather. They also did some wooden ornaments around before Christmas and did some hand sewing last year. I've also worked with paracords. So again, I teach the writing classes. We use the Institute for Excellence in Writing curriculum. This coming year, we'll be doing the Fables, Myths, and Fairy Tales. Really fun program. Helps the children learn grammar through writing, and it makes the process easy for them. So we have a lot of fun in that class. And again, we do the English language arts. So we continue with the Spell to Write and Read program, working on spelling at a more advanced level and penmanship. We also incorporate sentence diagramming. So the Form 2 students this year have been doing a great job with diagramming. Mrs. Peters has really helped them with that. And they also do poetry memorization in that class as well. For the history, we're doing a 3-year rotation. So this will be year 2 for us. So what we do is this year we're doing Story of the World Volume 1, which is ancient history, and starting the first part of the medieval book, which is Volume 2. And so next year we'll be doing part of Volume 2 and also we'll finishing Volume 2 and also starting on Volume 3 to go from medieval to early modern history. And then the third year of the rotation for Form 2, they'll finish early modern history and go through modern history with Volume 4 of Story of the World. We also continue to have the modern and classical languages, choir, the children's choir, musical theater is a new offering this year, and it's tuition free. Tuesday afternoons, tuition free for Form 2 and up. And we have our art explorations class. Miss Mona Cook is our art teacher for Form 2, and she does nature journaling for Forms 2, 3, and 4, so upper elementary through high school. She's a veteran homeschool mother of 5, lifelong Sunday school teacher, and she has professional artist experience, as well as print and media design and desktop publishing. But mostly she loves our kids, and she loves nature, and she loves art. So she brings that love and wonder. She's as excited or more excited than the kids in the classroom, and it's contagious. So she's wonderful. They have a lot of fun in that class, walking around, finding those possums in the trees to draw, and doing hands-on art projects. For our upper levels, we're going to transition to our middle school and high school levels. For the upper levels, we have Miss Callan Clark teaching art. That's a studio art class for the older kids. She is currently an MFA student in studio art at Houston Baptist University. She also graduated from the Honors College there and was an art major there for her bachelor's degree. So she's doing a fantastic job as well. So for our upper levels, we have Form 3 is grade 7 through 9, and Form 4 is 10 through 12. But this is mostly combined because different students are on different tracks, right? So it mostly depends on what kind of math they're at what age, and what kind of science. So we know it's flexible, especially with homeschoolers. So again, we continue the panorama, the core academics, the languages, and enrichment at this level. So some of our enrichment classes are the studio art class, the musical theater, and then for the languages, continuing Latin, Spanish. The core academics would be literature and composition, history, and we're on the same 3-year rotation with history, but we don't use Story of the World with the older kids, we do actual primary texts. So this year for ancient history, we actually read Herodotus, like the father of history, who wrote one of the first like history where he did research to try to reconstruct what had happened from ancient times. So we read Herodotus, and we're currently reading this spring Eusebius, who's the father of church history, who lived at the time of the Emperor Constantine and recorded church history from the time of Christ up until his contemporary time. So they're actually learning history from the founders of history study. And for the Socratic discussion and logic class, those are actually 2 different classes now. So we have logic on a 3-year rotation. So for the logic class, it's tuition free, This year, we're going to be doing advanced logic and building on our previous foundation. So this would be for returning students or for ambitious seniors who might be new who want to jump in. The Socratic discussion class, we call it our Inklings and Classics program. This is also tuition free for 8th grade and up. And we read classic texts and discuss them Socratically. There's not a lot of homework for it except for a lot of reading. The writing class, the writing we do in literature and composition classes. And the Socratic discussion class, we do the reading and the discussion. And for our Form 3, starting with pre-algebra, our math and science program really picks up. So before in elementary, we did mostly foundations of science and nature study and math games and mathematician biographies. And I forgot to mention number sense and math strategies in upper elementary. But starting with middle school and pre-algebra, we start having a rigorous math program. So Mrs. Panam is amazing. My daughter has been studying math with her for the last 2 years. It has increased her standardized test scores and increased her love of math. And also I don't have to teach math, which is also a win. So Mrs. Panam teaches all of our high school math classes. We probably won't be offering calculus this year. We're going to be offering Algebra 1 through pre-calculus for sure. And then we'll also be having another teacher doing the pre-algebra class. So Mrs. Panam is actually a lab physicist. She has a master's in physics, and she has been a math coach doing math tutoring for hundreds of students for like a decade. And she's helped lots of students improve their SAT scores and really rock the math portion of the test. So we are super grateful to have her here at Bluebonnet. The Socratic discussion classes and logic are taught by my husband, Dr. Gary Hartenberg. He is the director of the Honors College at Houston Baptist University. And so at the Honors College there, they also study great texts and discuss them Socratically. So he's been doing this for a couple decades, more than a couple decades, a long time. So it's really fun to have him now working with our own daughter and her peers. So this is a fun class. There's always laughing in this class. And there's never a week that I don't hear a lot of giggling or outright guffawing. So this is a tuition-free classes. We do give priority to returning students. So if we have room, as much room as we have, we will admit more students to the fun. We also offer private piano lessons on campus. Mrs. Sinwi Roscoe has been teaching piano in Houston since 1993. She knows what she's doing. She's very professional and does an excellent job. So switching from the curriculum here, let's talk about more of the other aspects of Bluebonnet. So we are all about providing a community. We're not just academics. We are a community of faith where we're worshiping together as we learn. And we provide some opportunities for that to happen. So every school day, the first 10 minutes of the lunch break before we eat, we do an assembly. So before COVID, we'd all get together in one group in the main hall of the church, and sing some psalms and hymns and prayers together. Since COVID, we keep students in their class groups. You can see we have classes outdoors, which we'll talk more about in a minute. So this is our Form 2 class singing their hymn during assembly this last week. And then we have lunch together. The students stay in their groups right now because of coronavirus, but we're outside also. And we also have a book club for parents. So in normal times when there was not a global pandemic, we would invite all parents to come to assembly and lunch and hang out every day. We're putting that on pause until we've got some of these health issues or concerns to deal with. So right now it's just students and staff and parents who are on volunteer duty, but we do have book club for parents, and that meets once a month. This is the same book club that was kind of the origin of Bluebonnet. So we have, once a month, we read a short chapter from a Charlotte Mason book. That's what we've been reading so far. We might read somebody else like C.S. Lewis in the future, but right now we're reading through Charlotte Mason's volumes. Our next meeting is on March 8th, and anyone's welcome. You don't have to be enrolled in Bluebonnet to come to that. It's just at a local park. The kids play and the parents talk about the book. So it's a great way to build community with other homeschool parents. At Bluebonnet, we keep our costs low. One of the ways we do that is by having parents heavily involved. And also we want parents involved because you're the primary educator, you know what your kids need, and this program is about helping you help them. So parents We do ask them to do volunteer shifts. It probably will work out to about 16 hours or less per semester on campus. So that might be 4 days doing a 4-hour shift, or it could be coming to help us set up a few times. So it will depend on the number of families involved, but it won't be more than 16 hours. That's what we've been doing this year. And when we have parents on campus, either to observe class, to help out in class, or to help out as in the volunteer duties, we do take child protection very seriously. So every parent that volunteers on campus or hangs out on campus does a child abuse prevention training, which we provide free of charge. And many people already have it through other programs or through their church. And we do background checks. And then we do ask parents to, in addition to their volunteer shifts, to try to participate in our book group. If you can't come to all of them, that's fine, but try to come to a few each year is what we ask for parents enrolling in the program. Okay, so what about COVID-19? Right now, we're following the government protocols, and we will continue to do that until they change. So I'm hoping they change soon, but we don't know. So right now, we're just saying we're going to continue in the fall what we're doing now, unless or until the protocols change. Let's say until. So right now, what we're doing is following the Safe Open protocols from the Texas Department of State Health Services. They actually provide on their website some minimum standard health protocols. And they have a checklist. So we look at what they offer for childcare centers as well as what they offer for youth development organizations. We've had all our teachers do coronavirus safety training, and we're meeting outside. So when we're on campus, which we've been in person all year, we meet outside whenever the weather isn't dangerously hot. If there's a heat advisory, we go inside. If it's dangerously cold or wind chill, we'll go inside, or if it's thundering, we'll go inside. Otherwise, we're outside, and it's been beautiful. This campus is gorgeous, and the children love being outside. I love being outside when it's not too hot. There are days we sweat, and there are days we shiver, but it's a wonderful experience, and it really goes well with our Charlotte Mason philosophy. Putting kids in touch with nature. God designed us to be in a garden, to enjoy the world so we can see possums during class. So we spread students out as much as possible. Siblings sit together. You'll see some kids close together in this photo because they're siblings, but otherwise we don't wear masks because we're outdoors. There's breeze, there's circulation. So we just physically distance, and an assembly and lunch are out with the class groups into their tents outside. Now, when we do have to go inside because of the weather, then we do math, and some classes are inside all year round. So we do have just our high school math classes are inside, and our private piano lessons have to be inside. And then again, we go inside if there's the weather necessitates it. We have kept our classes really small this year so that we can keep the physical distancing. We are not having any large gatherings on campus. So our classes right now are 8 to 10 students max, and will continue to be around that size in the fall as well, unless we no longer need to physically distance and wear masks. So we're following the Texas Department of Health minimum square footage requirements for classrooms when we do go indoors as well. Now, if there is a stay-at-home order, or if we have a case of somebody testing positive for COVID on our campus, then we will go online. So we and all of our teachers are super flexible professionals, and we actually did this 1 week. This whole year, we've only had to do this 1 week, where we went online on a dime. So just switched. It was, one day planning to be in person. We had only one positive case from an extended family member. We went online for 1 week, and we're back in person. Praise God. So we do live classes when we go online. We have live web conferencing, either through Zoom or Google Classroom, or a pre-recorded video lesson some teachers will provide. We have also, there are some classes that can't go online. So Kaleidoscope, it's not really an online class. You don't really want kindergartners on the computer for 2.5 hours. Handicrafts, art for Form 2, those can't really be done online. So we either reschedule them or offer a refund if we have to cancel because of COVID. Let's talk about the costs. So our fees, we have basically, these are the main fees, and I'm also going to email you the full fee schedule. But the main fees are the family registration fee. This covers facilities as well. That's an annual per family fee. And then this year we have tuition options. You can do a bundle to save money, if you want to take all the classes available for your student at their level, and that varies based on the form and the number of classes available at each level. And then we also have the a la carte option. So again, we have several classes that are completely tuition free, and then we have a wide variety of classes. So some of those classes like handicraft, that only actually meets every other week for 50 minutes. So it's going to cost less than a high school math class with our math whiz physicists. We also have a light class tuition. If we do have under-enrolled classes, we charge more in order to cover our expenses, in order to be able to hire those professional teachers and retain them. And then the 3 classes that are tuition free this year are musical theater, logic, and the Socratic discussion class. And then supplies fees vary greatly for class. The large number would be for like the Inklings class. The Inklings and Classics Socratic discussion class is going to be expensive because you're buying a stack of books, basically, of great texts. And sometimes the math and science textbooks for high school are expensive, but mostly it's going to be around closer to $20 or $30 per class. We have opened applications on our website for fall this weekend, so that's now live. So the process, basically you can read our enrollment page online. There's an online application that's completely free to complete. It's really quick and easy. And then once we receive that application from you through our website, we'll invite you to participate in a family interview, which is basically a chance for us to get to know you, for you to ask us your questions and make sure Bluebonnet is a good fit for you and your family. And then we will send you the enrollment packet once you're admitted, and your enrollment is confirmed when we receive the enrollment packet and the registration and facility family fee. So that all happens on our website. We're also going to email you the breakdown of tuition by class. That will be in your email box, as well as our class schedule for the fall and academic calendar and the complete fee schedule. Yeah, and I can show you stuff on the website too. We're at the end of our hour, but I do want to take questions. So that's all the information I have for you. But if you have a question, you can unmute yourself or type something in the chat. Thank you so much again for coming on a Saturday. Make sure my chat window is open here. And if you did want the full book list of our curriculum, you can just let us know on email. We'll be following up with you on email. And so if you want the full chat list, just let us know. Any questions today?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
For the Kaleidoscope kids, do they stay for the assembly and lunch also? Just trying to determine scheduling.
Yeah, the family can decide. We don't make anyone stay. We're all about respecting people's freedom and dignity. So whatever works, respecting parents too, and what works for your family. So we have a lot of kids that do stay and play. We have a beautiful playground at the church. I didn't show that in our pictures. I should add one of those pictures to the slideshow. But we have a really nice playground plus the acres of grassy area and tree area. So we hope people stay for at least assembly, but it's up to you what you want to do. But that they are allowed to stay for the full hour until 1 o'clock when the afternoon classes start.
Okay, yeah, that would probably be preferred for us. So just trying to check that out. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Any other questions?
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering if the students can join the Socratic discussion class, if it's the only class they are going to take with Bluebonnet, or do you have to be enrolled in other classes to be allowed into those classes?
Into which classes?
Into the Socratic discussion or the musical theater?
Oh yeah, no, you don't have to be enrolled in other classes. If we have an overwhelming interest and we have to prioritize, we would probably give priority to people who were also enrolling in other classes or siblings of students who were enrolled in other classes, but it's not a requirement. Yeah, we do have students that come just for the Socratic discussion classes right now, and that's totally fine.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I see a question in the chat about the literature classes. So For the upper level, I am using the Excellence in Literature series this year, and I'll probably continue using that. This is our book for this year. It's the Introduction to Literature by Janice Campbell. So this goes along with several books. So again, I can send the book list to you if you'd like. So this year we're reading, it's about 7 novels plus a few short stories, and they're all classics. So Around the World in 80 Days by Jules Verne, Animal Farm by George Orwell, Shakespeare, Jane Eyre, that was our long one, a bunch of fun stuff. So I was a literature major in college and then got my master's in education, and it's my passion. So I like to write poetry. I'm a poet. So when I teach the kids about writing and reading literature, it's kind of my love language. So yeah, they do essays. That's for the British literature class for Form 4. And then for Form 3, they'll do a more introduction to literary analysis this year. So we're rotating through a few classes. This year we did essay writing as our middle school, high school class for Form 3 class, basically. And then literature for the upper high school. And then next year we'll be doing British Lit for the Form 4 upper high school, and in more introduction to literary analysis. We're going to be using the Institute for Excellence in Writing's Windows to the World. Did I answer your question, Mr. Herring? Awesome. Any other questions?
I have one more.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Hallie?
Oh, that's my daughter's name. Yeah, I'm Teresa. I can't figure out Zoom either. So I'm curious about some of the core subjects such as math. Yes, you would give us the book or the curriculum that would be used, right? And I would assume there would be 2 times that they would meet for those core subjects there on campus. But what about the other times? As a parent, how can I continue that part of the education here at home?
For high school math?
I'm looking more for 7th grade.
7th grade. So if your student is ready for pre-algebra, then it depends on their math level. So there will be homework. So the teachers will assign specific homework. And we have been scouring the globe for a curriculum that works for our program, that works for classroom teaching and for home reinforcement. And it's hard to find. So we have at least one good option, and we're continuing to research our option before we decide. But what we're basically looking for is something that has an answer key so that students and parents can check at home. But there will be homework assigned, and the students will be expected to do work. So for high school math, it is rigorous. So our program is going to be 31 weeks. So to cover a college prep, SAT prep level, rigorous, like not just learning the math, but learning it deeply for the wonder. I mean, I love to hear Mrs. Panum talk about math because she doesn't just she's not just skilled at it. She sees God in it, and she wants kids to see God in it. So she talks about the beauty of math, the wonder of math. And so they don't just, whatever curriculum we use, she supplements. It's never enough because she wants to bring them deeper in. So she'll bring in problems from the art of problem solving curriculum, for example. She'll sneak in SAT questions, but they don't even know they're SAT questions, so they get experience with that kind of critical thinking, kind of tricky math question. So she's always supplementing whatever we get. She could write her own, but basically she'll take a curriculum and make it awesome. So the main thing that we're trying to find right now is one that has an answer key for parents and students to use at home. But for the high school math, it's not unusual to have your student do an hour of math a day when they're not at Bluebonnet. So my daughter's in geometry with Mrs. Panum right now. So she does about an hour a day of homework on every day that's not a Bluebonnet day. And she does take off a weekend day. So it's pretty intense.
Okay, thank you.
And Hope, you had another question?
Yes, I did. I wanted, it was in relation to literature. do you have any non-Western literature that you study?
Oh, yes, we do. So that's important to me. So let's see, I'm trying to remember the book list. So for the literature class right now, are you talking about like, so next year will be British literature for the actual literature class. That one is British literature. So we'll be from Britain, England. And, but for the Socratic discussion class, we do try to get a big range. So, and stuff that's not always typically on the canon. What did we read this year? Oh, we read the Lao Tzu this year for the Inklings and Classics class. So we brought in the classic Chinese work by Lao Tzu, the Tao. I'm not sure I'm remembering the full title. And then we are looking to add, I believe this spring they're reading some Navajo creation stories. We also went beyond the Greek and Roman and did some Norse. That's still Anglo-Saxon, but it's not always on the canon for traditional Great Books classes. So yes, we try to bring in some Eastern and Western works, but most of the works are things that you would find on a traditional Great Books list. Does that answer your question?
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, and we try to get more women in there sometimes when we can. Again, we want it to be a classic. We want it to be high quality. We want it to be beautiful, but bringing in some variety is fun. So they're reading Julian of Norwich this year, and I really love her writing. She just, the way she talks about the love of God. Yeah, so. Yeah. Oh, and Teresa, I forgot to mention, if you were looking for pre-algebra, that is going to be more, that's not taught by Mrs. Panem. It will be less rigorous, but they will be getting ready for algebra with Mrs. Panem. So it'll be, yeah, it's not the same teacher for pre-algebra.
So if I feel like that might be the next step for her, is there some way that you guys would help me help assess that?
Yes, Mrs. Panem has actually prepared some entry tests that you can give yourself. We can email them to you and you can give it to your child and kind of see based on how they do on that, whether they might be ready for pre-algebra or algebra 1, or if they're not ready.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. I jumped away from your question, Hope, because I remembered I forgot to tell Teresa something. But if I didn't answer your question, let me know.
No, Dad, you answered my question.
Okay. Any other questions? Someone is asking in the chat, will this recording be sent to emails? It won't be sent to the emails, but we will post it on our website. We usually send it, if you sign up for our email list, I think we asked when you sign up for this webinar if you wanted to be added to our email list. If you're on our email list, we'll probably send an announcement when it is on our website, but it will be up on the website. Any other questions? So the, like I said, the application is live, and I can show you, we'll send you a link to that. But I can also just give you a quick tour of the website. Sometimes people are asking, where is this or where is the other thing? Okay, so one thing to notice is that on our menu bar, there's the drop-down menu for most of the items, but you can also click on the actual title of the menu. So if you click on enrollment, which is also where the big red button on the front page goes, it has all this information about the application process again. Our whole creed and principles are here. The parent responsibilities, all the tuitions and fees. This is the complete list of fees and deadlines and all that. Our academic calendar are all here on our enrollment page. And you can also go directly to the application here or the academic calendar. So when we do record, when we put the recording up, it will be on our events page where you signed up for this webinar. We'll put the recording there. And then under class offerings, we have a page for each form that lists the classes. We're still in the process of updating this. So on our Form 1 page, you can actually click through and read descriptions for all of our classes. So you can click on any of these titles And we're continuing to update them for the coming year. So some of them, they might be being changed or revised or updated with new teacher information, but you can click through to all the classes. We'll be adding that for the other levels. Right now we have the complete list of classes that they're not clicked through yet. If you want to find the class description for any of these, you can just click the menu title, class offerings, and we have our whole course catalog down here. And any of these you can click on for more information. So for the Kaleidoscope class, you can click on it, and there's tells you what subjects, what level, the description, and the materials. We're updating this. I don't think this fee is accurate. I think it's less than that, but I need to check. So there's information about all of our classes on the class offerings page. Our schedule is also there, and we'll be emailing it to you as well. It is subject to change, so if you want the most, if at any time in the spring or summer you want to see the most recent class schedule, you can come here on the website, and this will be updated if there are any changes. You can see our tuition-free classes there. Any other questions? Go ahead and let you go. If you want to stick around for more questions, you're welcome to. Otherwise, thanks again. Thanks for coming.
Ms. Hartenberg.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. My daughter has taken a class from you at HBU in the summer a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Loved you. It was great. It was a writing class. And as a homeschool parent, I struggle with the writing aspect of schooling my kids. And so is there something that you could offer that would help just with writing? Is that so I'm looking, so it's 8th, 9th grader and like an 11th grader. So the older, the Form 3 and the Form 4 is what I'm more interested in. That's what I'm taking as the literature and composition, right? It's a doing reading and then writing about what you read, kind of writing essays based off of those authors, or what is it?
Yeah. So, and again, I can send you the link to the specific, or send you the specific curriculum information if you want to look at it. But if they would be the Form 3 level, did you say? That would be the Windows to the World by EW.
Mm-hmm. So I guess my issue is grading it. Like, I don't know how to, I know you said you don't provide grades, but I feel like I need assistance in how to see if they're getting where they need to go.
Yeah, so we don't provide letter grades, but we do provide assessment feedback for the core classes. So I actually give lots of feedback on the writing. And for what I'm looking for students is the habit and the skill and the knowledge. So what they're going to do, what I really focus on my classes, is the habit of attention to detail and follow through. Every assignment that they write for me, it's not graded, but it's essentially pass-fail. It's you met the expectations and you did the task that I asked you to do, or you need to revise. Those are the only options. So if they don't meet the expectations, they revise. And that's an expectation I make clear at the beginning of the classes, that that the revision is an essential part, because that's really how you learn to write. You don't learn to write by writing the paper, then having it inked up, and then putting that away and starting over again. You learn by changing what you didn't do right and implementing the areas that the targeted learning goals are. So I actually give very detailed feedback, and they revise until they get it right, or until they've exhausted me with revisions, whichever comes first. No, but usually they revise until they get it right, because I also make the expectations. It's kind of like the Suzuki method, right? I don't know if you're familiar with Suzuki and the violin, the mother tongue method of learning music, but you give them one small skill at a time to master. So I don't ask them to master 10 things at once. I don't ask them to learn MLA formatting and paragraph structure and essay structure and literary analysis. I don't ask them to do all of those things at once for most classes. So I will ask them to do one thing, and that will be, they have a written checklist, they have a written rubric. So they check it off themselves, and parents proofread. So you're walking them through, did you do all of the steps that the teacher asked you to do? If so, check off, and it's very objective. Did you put a running header at the top of your paper? Did you center your title? So it's very articulated, and they know whether they met the expectations or not. And then I confirm that they met the expectations, or say, actually, no, you didn't. Your topic sentences don't express the main idea of your paragraphs. Revise those topic sentences and submit it again. So that's kind of how they roll. Now, we are on a rotation. So I am just finishing this year an essay intensive class. So next year it will be focused more on literary analysis. And then the next year, again, we'll probably go back to a basic essay or an essay focus again to kind of rotate through for what different students need. So we can kind of talk separately about specific needs of your child if you think they'd be ready to do some literary analysis while working on some of these skills that I'm talking about, or yeah, kind of where they're at.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? Anybody?
I have one more.
Uh-huh.
Let's say we only do, I'm looking more at the a la carte option. So what do the kids do, or what is the rule if they're done with the class? When do they get picked up and things like that?
When do they get picked up?
Yes, can they stay on campus, or do you have?
Oh, yes. We have a study hall. So yes, it's $9 per student per month for study hall. And so obviously they can only do study hall when they also have a class that same day. And this is for students who are upper elementary and older, so not for Form 1. So grades 4 through 12 can stay on campus in study hall. They'll just need to bring work or a book to read or something to do quietly in the study hall that we have supervised by staff and or a parent volunteer. Yeah.
Okay.
And then
so
we don't have after school or before school. So they need to arrive on time for their class and leave at the end of the day. So they can't stay longer than 4:30 on any day.
Yes, what I meant is, do you have set time for pickup and drop-offs? That's what I meant.
Oh, because we have so many flexible options, parents can come and go. They take classes a la carte. You do have to come in and sign out the children. We take their safety very seriously. But there isn't one time for pickup because we have families coming for different classes at different times of day.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions?
I have one more.
Mm-hmm.
So you said the tuition-free classes, if you don't have any other classes, you are not you don't get priority, right? So when will you know if you can get into those classes or not? Or do you know if they're open spaces? Have the returning families registered already and then their space? How do we know?
Yeah, so good question. We do admit on kind of on a rolling basis, so it's kind of first come, first serve. We're accepting current family applications currently, and then well, they're already admitted, but enrollment packages, and then the sooner you start the application process, the sooner you'll be in the queue in the line for the class. So it will be open enrollment in March.
So do you fill out, so let's say, since we are a new family, do we fill out the application now or do we wait for March? How do we get into the queue since we knew? Like, do I have to wait until March to start the application or?
No, March is Monday and you can start the application today. So you can just go to application on the website.
Okay.
It takes like 5 minutes or less to fill it out.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm. I see a question from Jessica. What if my son is taking Algebra 2 but is in the 9th grade? Yeah, that's the beautiful thing about homeschooling. You take whatever math your student is ready for. So that will mean that there'll be more on the Form 4 schedule. In other words, there will be conflicts with other classes that other students in 9th grade might be taking. But yeah, so basically you just, on the class list that I'll be sending you out on email, I've color coded the classes based on, for Forms 3 and 4, based on the math tracks. So basically, depending on what math you're in, that kind of dictates which science you're eligible for, and then you kind of pick your schedule around that, depending on what other classes you might want. How many students?
Okay, thank you. That was my question, and I just couldn't get my microphone working, so I typed it real quick in case you ended it. So if they wanted to take Form 3 for the first little time period, but then they had to hop over to Form 4 for the second, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yes. That's
on the
kind of
chart
why,
right now, like
yeah,
if they wanted to take nature journaling, but then wanted to take algebra 2, that would be okay.
absolutely, yes. That's
Okay.
why we kind of combine Form 3 and 4 on our website and in the PowerPoint here, because that's what you do at this age, right? You pick whichever track is working for your particular trajectory.
And will you be sending us that the class list automatically?
Yes, if you sign up for this webinar, it's coming in your email this afternoon.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And then I see another question from Alejandra. How many students are usually in the Form 1 class? So we had 8, and we capped it at 8 this year, and it'll be 8 to 10 in the fall as well. We usually keep, even without coronavirus, we usually keep the Kaleidoscope class, the Form 1 classes, to about 10 students. Small groups are good for that age range. Any other questions? In Form 1, will they be required to wear a mask? So we're following the protocols from the state. So the state says that 10 and up is required to wear a mask. But again, when we're outside, nobody wears a mask. 10 and under, it's optional. We request it, but it's optional. If you are uncomfortable with them wearing masks, you can just let us know.